Why were you excited to start using Subscript?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like when I was first introduced to Subscript, I finally found a platform that was purpose built for our business, our SaaS business, um, and also just for the way that I, as the financial leader in the business, found myself contributing. Right, and I guess what I mean by that is I spend way more time with my CEO, with my go-to-market counterparts, even with the board on matters related to the commercial aspects of our business than I am on financial audits or gap accounting, right? And those things are obviously still a critical part of my role. They're just not where I'm engaging in a strategic way with the business. And so with Subscript, I'm no longer asking my RevOps team to go create a bunch of custom dashboards or, do things with Salesforce that it's not meant to do, or my BizOps team to, hey, let's go pull a bunch of these data sets together and spin up a data lake with a visualization layer. It's just there with Subscript, right? It already does that for me, and it maps to not only what I need to do, but to our business in a really, really intentional way. So that's what got me really excited.
That's awesome. When we first started working together, you were the CFO at Parsable. Now you're the COO at Parsable. And in both roles, the thing I wanted to ask you is, at your best, like, what do you hope your job is, or what do you hope you're accomplishing in both roles?
Yeah, gosh, that's a great question, and I think at a growth stage company, there's a lot of fluidity between those two roles, and so in many respects, I think there's been overlap in that answer, and in some ways, it's evolved. But I think for both roles, I mean, my role is to be uh, really in a support function to make the company go, right? So, what are the insights that are required to make us move faster? What are ways that I can make us arrive at better decisions based off of what we've learned in the past or what some of the data is telling us? And as you can imagine, that stuff spans kind of every corner of the organization, right? So I think in both of those roles, I've always kind of viewed that as being a key pillar to what I can and should be contributing to the business.
That's awesome. So, in your words, how would you describe what Subscript is and how it helps you do that?
Yeah, I mean, look, at a functional level, we finally have this real time view of all the commercial data in our business, right? So I was solving for this in different ways and in different places, but in a real time way and in one place, I have all of my subscription metrics for my business, right? My ARR, my customer waterfalls, my retention metrics. I also have a lot of the unit economic data I need for my business. I better understand all the go-to-market efficiency metrics in my business. So, am I spending too much? Should I be spending a little bit more? And I think what's been really cool as we've continued to dig in and explore the platform is it's not just the raw data, right? I think what's really made Subscript stand out is it's providing everyone on my team a really intuitive way to visualize all this, right? In graphs and charts, of course, but also in cohort views and other ways to kind of drill down either to a specific number when there's a really detailed answer we're looking for, or maybe to step out and get a sense directionally of what a particular metric might be doing in the business or how it's trending or what the larger picture is. And so I think that's the type of flexibility it's really equipped us with. It's not just another tool that's kind of presenting my financial metrics back to me, but it's somewhere that we all go to really understand kind of the overarching commercial story of our customers and for the business at large.
That's very cool. How has that helped your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's helped in a handful of different ways, right? I think number one, which has been really really great, is uh, it's not just a finance tool, right? So we talked about my role kind of evolving at the business, and um, there's been a number of different stakeholders in the business that have really gotten a lot of leverage out of this. So I think it's helped by democratizing access to all of this commercial data. Um, my colleagues, my counterparts aren't waiting around on finance for analysis or just access to data. So I think that's been kind of first and foremost a big help. The second part for me is it's built a ton of efficiency and time saving into my group, right? RevOps, FP&A, accounting are all part of my org, and it's just saved a ton of time by allowing us to marry our revenue data from Salesforce, pulling in the expense data from NetSuite. We're even experimenting with other data sources around product usage and penetration, and having all of that in one place has, I think, just put us on our front foot in terms of being in analysis mode and decision making mode versus on our back foot on around, gosh, let's go gather the data, let's figure out where we go find it and what we do with it. And it's just made us pretty dangerous, right, in terms of the insights we can provide quickly, despite being a pretty lean team. So I think the result of those two things is it's just starting to create a lot of velocity in the organization, right? I think there's a good understanding that finance holds kind of the source of truth when it comes to this commercial data in the business, but you can't blame colleagues when they don't readily have access to the source of truth data they need, or it takes forever to get it to them. Of course, they're going to do some back of the envelope math, or rely on something that's directionally correct, or maybe rely on stale data. Right, this is just the last thing they had access to, and that's what leads to confusion. That's what leads to rework, and that's the stuff that slows down an organization of any size. And so, I think what's really helped since we've been on board with Subscript is we're just increasingly avoiding all of that, and it's generating a ton of speed in the business as a result.
Oh, that's cool. I love the analogy of sort of being able to play off your front foot and playing your best game. So that's awesome.
For
Um,
sure.
I guess being able to do that, then what is a specific way in which Subscript has helped Parsable make better decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I think something that we're really enjoying out of the platform and has made a big difference to us is kind of the out of the box cohort analysis we can now do. It's look, we've done cohort analysis before. It's always been very valuable to our business. It's also a ton of work, right? And so I think inevitably what would happen is, we would do this once a quarter or for a board meeting or to tell the story in fundraising instead of really using the analysis to take real action, make better decisions. And what's happened for us is, we're now a few years into our commercial journey, and you tend to fall into this trap of maybe leaning on qualitative data or anecdotes on what types of customers really expand with you over time, and what's the best fit for us, and what was that initial landing price that we should be targeting for the best retention down the road, right? Or a variety of other critical insights. And I think the difference now is we no longer run this as a once a quarter exercise, but it's something we leverage whenever we need it, as those conversations come up, as those decisions need to be made. It's something we now have at our fingertips. And it's probably my favorite example of a part of Subscript that's made us, helped us make better decisions, at least.
That's really cool. Yeah, I always wanted to look at more cohort analyses in my last business, but it was like such a production that essentially you could like, I basically felt like I could ask for one or two things ever, and then that was pushing it. Like the team was gonna mutiny if I kept kept asking for more.
That's right. And you don't want to be in that spot, right? You don't want to have to make, as a finance leader, you don't want to be making trade-off decisions on what analysis I can ask for because all of it takes so much time. And
Yeah.
so creating kind of this menu of options of, let me just get to the data set, let me get to the analysis that is going to help me make the best decision, as opposed to approaching this as a resource question on what can I ask my team to do, is incredibly empowering. right? And
Yeah.
that's just one great example of that.
There's something about just being able to like interact and play with the data to see what stories it has, because you don't always know what stories it might have, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, I think a common thing that you'll hear about, what makes a strong finance team or strategic finance leader is their ability to go tell those stories, right? And articulate what's happening in the business by translating the numbers or translating the data. And I think that's fine. That's true. But when you have stuff like this that's out of the box, it really shifts you from being a storyteller to being one of the story writers in your business, right?
Yeah.
Because as that is emerging, it's putting you in a position to make those decisions in concert with your colleagues, not just report on them after they happened, right? And so to
Yeah.
your point, um, we've just never been in that position before. We were too busy, heads down, trying to think of the right question, doing all the work to uncover it, hoping something insightful came from it. And this has kind of turned that dynamic on its head a little bit.
Hmm. Um, can you talk about the timing of why you chose Subscript when you did? Why not like at an earlier stage of the business or a later stage in the business?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, the timing element came into a couple of different things. First, it was the right time just in terms of where we were as a business, right? We're a growth stage business that is, I think, as diverse and complex as it's ever been from a revenue mix perspective, a product SKU perspective, a customer segmentation standpoint, as well as just many of the other things where now planning to kind of start experimenting with and launching going forward. And so we were at an inflection point last year where it was clear, right? We needed a tool that was not only going to help us baseline all of those, variables across our business, but was also going to be flexible enough to grow as those variables evolved or new ones emerged. And I think that was the thing that really came to the forefront just in terms of timing of where our global operation was and what was happening with the commercial side of our business. The second part for me was more personal, and that was, you know, I was seeing kind of this proliferation that was happening across the CFO tech stack, and it's clear that um, I shouldn't have to just stand for working with static data and waiting for an update at the end of the month, right? It's no longer good enough, and so just kind of having an ear to the ground in terms of what's happening in the space and in the financial tech stack more broadly is what piqued my curiosity and made it feel like, all right, there's got to be a better way. And so I think once I came to that realization, uh, in parallel with our business picking up speed, it was really important for me to make sure our ability to kind of leverage data, make decisions, and keep pace with what the business needed really quickly became a priority. And so I think those two things in concert with each other is what drove the urgency and ultimately got us to that point.
Super cool. Last question, asking for advice for others. For people who are thinking about adopting Subscript as their financial data platform, can you share about why you took the leap and why you would recommend that they do too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was introduced to Subscript at a fairly early stage in its life cycle. And I think one of the things that stood out to me, even at that point, is how the product is going to continue to evolve and shift. I just really appreciated the Subscript team, right? I think that the way I was able to engage on um, solving a problem that I hadn't used software to solve inside of this business before, and really having a partner in that was really, really important to me. And I felt like I was finding that with the folks I was engaging with on the other side of the table. I appreciated that you're building this business out of the pain you felt from your last company and having to solve for a lot of these problems, right? So I think that's something that really stood out to me as well. And so those were a couple of things that really drew me in early. But when it came down to the tool itself, and I guess the advice I give is, while we are seeing this explosion of finance tools that are now available to kind of the new strategic CFO, one of the things that I was really thinking about was, how do I kind of limit my swivel chairing and all of the different systems and tools I needed to go to get the commercial view of my business that I really needed, right? And so I was solving for that in a way that I wanted a platform that could cover the most surface area in terms of my subscription metrics, pulling my expense data in, having a visualization layer that was really intuitive, that I could get to other people outside of my org. And I felt like I found that with Subscript. So as you're thinking about solving these problems for your own org, and you're particularly thinking about the commercial story of your business, not just the financial numbers, um, I think really zoning in on how do I do that in a holistic way might be a way to kind of sift through the noise and ultimately, you know, decide that Subscript's a good decision for you as well.
Amazing. Thanks so much for all of this and for all the advice and the thoughts on Subscript so far. Really appreciate it. And of course, really appreciate the partnership with you.
Absolutely.